So what I have here are some pewter pieces that I made, and I'm currently drilling a hole in it because I saw someone who was making their stuff for the very first time. And this is the badge of Outlands. It's just a plain badge that anybody can wear. And so I make these, and this one I'm making to give out to somebody because he made arrows for the first time. And they are really excellent. He did such a good job, and so I'm making him this. He doesn't know it yet, so that's what I'm doing. And then this is another one. This one is already ready to be used for something else. So I make pewter. I have right up here, I have my entry in the actual competition that we're doing right now. And you can see it's a chain of state. But in this particular case, I made it a chain of state for a Pelican, for someone who has done immense amounts of service for the SCA. And what's really great about it is it's actually really solid. So when you have to go and put this on somebody or whatever, it's actually really, it's going to be nice for someone to have this when they get their Pelican for service. And what's really great is today, after this is over, the monarch gets this and they will give it to whoever they feel is... Well, this is the soapstone, and you can see this one actually broke because over time the soapstone deteriorates from the different casting, the heat. This had a schist in it, and so this one is actually the one I used to cast. You can see the Outlands symbol that's in here. Here, this is... No, that's not it. Where'd it go? I have an extra one somewhere over here. But anyway, you carve it in. You make the first thing I do is I make the disc, and then I go in and because you want to drill it out because you want to make sure that the pewter is thick enough that it will actually get to pour. Then you go in and you make the detail of the piece that you want. So then you can see what that is, and you make it into a mold. The mold, you can see I did a disc on this side and on that side. It actually will pour better when you do this much work on one. You can do detail on both sides. I've done double-sided lots of stuff. As a matter of fact, when I made this one, I intended the pieces to be double-sided. You can see right here, I made 2 Pelicans, and it was going to be double-sided, and then it would have been Pelicans in the different direction. But this one ended up getting messed up. You can see it broke here. And so it wasn't working anymore. So I had to go back in and redo it. And this is the end product. So because these used to be one whole mold, like so. Pewter is a mixture of copper, mostly tin, 90% tin, then some copper, some antimony. Quite often you'll see they do lead in it, and so you have to be careful, especially with really old pewter, because they put lead in it and that can make it bad. So I try to use all lead-free. I can't guarantee that it is lead-free because I do use recycled pewter in some of my stuff. If I'm going to make it for something that that goes in the mouth, I make sure, and I have pure. See right here? This is recycled, and this pure. I bought this so that I can for sure make stuff that's food grade and safe when I know it's going to be used for food grade or anything like that. There's a ton of examples. This is my favorite book, and what's great is pewter is one of the things that ends up getting reused in medieval times. They used it over and over again for different things, but then they would make things. These are pilgrim badges, so you prove that you went to a holy site with these. And the reason that we didn't have a lot of them is because pewter is one of the primary components that's used in bullets. And when you're at war, you don't care about art anymore, and you melt down everything that's left. So they ended up taking all of these that we knew about and melting them into bullets. But it's very cool because in London, they have these things they call mud lockers, and they go around and they look for stuff in the mud, and they go and they found more And so this is examples of those that they found. I love it when they get all excited about that stuff. But that is one of the ways that they end up actually finding the pewter pieces in medieval, that are from medieval times. The other thing that they find is the soapstone that was carved for them. Because soapstone doesn't have any component that it's useful for in war. So again, it stuck around, whereas the pewter didn't. Pewter has been used since they found that you could stick it in a fire and melt it. You didn't have to have a forge to melt pewter. Pewter was one of the first metals that they used and started making stuff. And then it's never gone out of use because we figured out new things to do with it. Tin is extremely popular for so many different things. And yeah, so it's just never stopped. England had an entire village where they had a tin mine near there. So they were known for their pewter. But pewter is pretty much everywhere. I mean, because it's a very easy thing to carry. Anybody can learn how to cast it. It's extremely easy to work with. If you want to, you can change it with a file. In just a few seconds, you can go in and just fix it, and you can carve in it. So it was one of those trade items that was just everywhere. It was used for so many things, and it was cheap. This is one of the best things for pewter is the fact that it can take up so much detail. I mean, you can see just the detail of the eye. You know, you go in and it takes up so much detail. It's still used for miniatures. Pewter, for a long time, they went away because lead actually is better. It gets better detail. But we had to stop using lead because it makes people go crazy. So now we use pewter for all that. But again, miniatures all over the place, they use pewter. This is my other project that I'm submitting for review here. And this is one of the earliest friction folders that they found. This is the original that I made with Sir Patrick. He went out and he made the blade, and I made the scale for the handle. And this is an actual reproduction of an extant knife that they have in a museum in Europe. And we remade it as close to the specs, to the numbers as we could. It had a bar next to it, and we figured out all the measurements, and so this was as close as possible. But then I was looking at it and I went, oh, you know, this is for a competition, and I started looking at what they wanted for the competition, and they like it better if you make everything yourself. So I went out and I made a new one, and you can see the squirrel and the detail in the eye. And then on the other side I put, this is for me. This is a knife that is actually going to be used by me to carve soapstone for my other, because I went in and I made the knife, and the knife can be used. It can scrape soapstone, you can use it in all the... But then I also made this little chisel on the end. It's kind of, this would remind you of a box cutter. And I put this chisel on the end so that I could have this with me and have a period piece that was totally handmade that I could carve soapstone with. The scales, they're made out of cattle bone, and they actually called that ivory back in the day. It's funny because ivory is usually elephant tusks, but this is still not totally broken in. See, you have to let it break in on its own, or else you'll break it. And so I have to keep moving it, but it'll be there soon. Another thing is there's a lot of extant bone examples out there because bone wasn't worth as much as ivory. And ivory is another one that stuck around for a very long time because, again, there was no reuse of it. They didn't have something that they could use. If they could have ground it down to a powder and had the powder be useful, then we wouldn't have those examples of artwork. But the artwork is still out there, and you can still see what they've made, because cattle bone, anybody can get a cow bone. I can go to the grocery store and get a cow bone. I do go to the grocery store and get a cow bone. So that makes it easier and faster and better to do this stuff. And I like it because I can always find it. I like using cattle bone because it's a matter of, I like steak, and it's using the whole cattle, the whole cow. These are some of my pieces. I really, really enjoy making the tools, the nail binding needles, and teaspoons for cooks, and these are belt ends to go on ankle So you can see how much, I just love doing this stuff. I love carving. And when somebody comes to me and says, oh man, I want you to try to make this for me, which I had somebody from Citadel came to me and said, please make me a lucid. And so I made her a lucid, and now I've got to remember her name. Because I don't remember her name, and I've got to give this to her, but I made this last night for her because I love making the tools for people, because then you can say, no, a friend of me, an artisan made this for me so that I could go and make my art. And so